In the quiet town of Cedarville, nestled just outside a bustling city in the heart of the province, lived Anna Rose Bennett. She was a 40-year-old woman who had spent years dreaming of a peaceful future, hoping one day to become a grandmother, surrounded by the warmth of family. But Anna Rose's life was far from simple. Known to friends and family as a strong and adventurous spirit, Anna Rose faced many challenges. Head-on, when life forced her to start over, she did so without hesitation. For 4 long years, Anna Rose lived in a modest tent on the outskirts of town, a fact that puzzled those who knew her well. No one could quite explain why she chose such a hard path. But those close to her said she was determined to make things right. Anna Rose worked at the Department of Child and Family Services in Cedarville. She loved her job deeply, dedicated to helping children and teenagers build better lives. Beyond her government work, she and her partner, Marcelo Ford, ran a small upholstery business. Marcelo, a man in his early 50s, was known as a skilled craftsman who had built a reputation for quality and precision. The couple had been together for nearly a decade and shared a unique interest. They both practiced Reiki, a form of energy healing that they believed brought balance to their bodies and minds. But beneath the calm surface, tensions simmered there. Relationship had started with hope and companionship, but over time, disagreements grew frequent. Marcelo's jealousy and controlling nature began to cast long shadows over their home. Friends whispered about his temper and possessive attitude, things that Anna Rose tolerated quietly but with growing unease. Anna Rose had 4 children from a previous marriage. 2 lived far away in the neighboring province, while the other 2 had moved even further, one settling in France and the other starting a family in Bolivia. Despite the distance, she maintained close ties with her family, especially her parents and siblings, who all lived nearby. Work colleagues described Anna Rose as kind and full of life, someone who tried to keep her personal struggles hidden from view. The tension between Anna Rose and Marcelo reached a boiling point on the weekend of May 28, 2017. That Sunday, the couple traveled to visit relatives in a nearby town, but the trip was marred by a heated argument. Marcelo, suspicious and controlling, had checked Anna Rose's phone without her permission, a move that ignited fury on both sides. Neighbors recalled hearing yelling late into the night after they returned home. Harsh words and insults echoed through the quiet streets, followed by a brief calm that was shattered again in the early hours of Monday morning. Then, silence. By Tuesday, Marcelo went to the local police station to report Anna Rose missing. His story seemed straightforward. Early Monday morning, Anna Rose had vanished without a trace. Her car was found abandoned in front of a beauty salon not far from their house, with all her belongings inside, except her phone. Marcelo claimed he had tried calling her many times, and that friends and family had left messages, but there was no response. At first, the community was shocked but hopeful. Anna Rose was known for her punctuality and dedication. It was unlike her to disappear without telling anyone. Her last WhatsApp message was sent late Sunday night, and after that, no one heard from her. But the longer the search went on, the darker the truth began to look. Marcelo's story soon showed cracks. Police noticed inconsistencies and contradictions during his lengthy questioning. Witnesses reported seeing a man in grey clothing near where Anna Rose's car was left, not a woman. Marcelo's moods swung wildly during interviews, from confident denials to nervous justifications. Days turned into weeks, and the investigation deepened. Authorities found evidence suggesting a violent struggle. Marcelo was no longer just a worried husband. Suspicion began to fall heavily on him. What had truly happened to Anna Rose Bennett? Was this just a tragic disappearance, or was there something more sinister lurking beneath the surface? The disappearance of Anna Rose Bennett shook the small town of Cedarville to its core. For days, neighbors, friends, and family searched desperately for any sign of her. Posters with her photo appeared on walls and street corners. Local news stations covered the story, and social media buzzed with concern and speculation. Everyone wanted answers. At the center of it all was Marcelo Ford, the man who claimed he had no idea where his partner had gone. But as the investigation grew more intense, cracks began to appear in Marcelo's carefully constructed story. Police officers interviewed Marcelo for hours on end. At first, he seemed cooperative and composed, insisting that Anna Rose had left on her own after their argument. But soon, his story started to shift. His explanations became unclear, his memories fuzzy, and sometimes he contradicted himself. Investigators sensed that something was very wrong. Detective Sarah Collins, assigned to the case, had years of experience in solving domestic cases, and something about Marcelo didn't sit right with her. His jealousy was well known, and his controlling behavior had been mentioned by several people close to the couple. She was afraid of him. One friend whispered during a private conversation with Sarah. Marcelo was always watching her, asking questions, making her feel trapped. But Marcelo denied everything. He claimed that their fights were normal, just the kind couples had from time to time. He said Anna Rose had told him she needed space, and he was worried she might have left to think things over. Yet, there was a growing pile of evidence that didn't add up. The white Chevrolet Anna Rose had been driving was found abandoned on Rainier Avenue, right in front of a beauty salon. Inside the car were her keys, her purse, and other belongings, but her phone was missing. Marcelo said he had looked inside the car and found everything there except her phone. Neighbors near the beauty salon reported seeing a man, not a woman, leaving the area around the time the car was abandoned. The man wore a gray jacket, a detail that made investigators suspicious. Furthermore, police found traces of blood in the couple's house during forensic tests. The presence of blood raised serious questions about what really happened in the early hours of Monday morning. Behavior during interviews also alarmed authorities. He switched between denial, anger, and sometimes shock. At times, he seemed to genuinely grieve, but at other moments, he was defensive and evasive. More troubling were the digital clues. Marcelo had access to Anna Rose's social media accounts and passwords, which he used even after she disappeared. Police suspected he was trying to control the narrative and cover his tracks. Days after the disappearance, Marcelo finally confessed, but only after detectives confronted him with irrefutable evidence from phone records and forensic tests. The truth was horrifying. Marcelo admitted to killing Anna Rose in a fit of rage following a weekend of arguments fueled by his obsessive jealousy. He described how he had struck her multiple times, then panicked and attempted to hide the evidence by dismembering her body and burying it in a remote area. The confession sent shockwaves through Cedarville. A man once seen as a caring partner was now revealed to be a cold-blooded killer. As the community struggled to come to terms with the tragedy, prosecutors prepared their case. Marcelo was charged with aggravated murder and gender-based violence, crimes that carried the possibility of a life sentence. But even with the confession, the trial promised to be complex. Marcelo's defense team argued that his statements were made under pressure and could not be considered a true confession. They planned to challenge the evidence and paint Marcello as mentally unstable at the time of the crime. Meanwhile, Anna Rosa's family and friends mourned her loss and demanded justice. They remembered her as a loving mother and dedicated worker, a woman whose life was cruelly cut short. The case of Anna Rosa Bennett became more than just a missing persons investigation. It was a story of betrayal, control, and the deadly consequences of unchecked jealousy. By the time the investigation deepened into Anna Rosa's disappearance, doubts about Marcella's story grew stronger. Police examined every detail, and inconsistencies in his statements became clear. Marcello claimed that Anna Rosa had left after an argument, but neighbors and friends noticed strange behavior from him. Some said he seemed nervous, while others observed him changing moods rapidly, from calm to angry in moments. His controlling nature was no secret among those close to the couple. As the days passed, investigators pieced together evidence from phone records, CCTV footage, and witness accounts. Marcello's alibi did not match the movements recorded by his cell phone. He had been near the countryside dirt road where Anna Rosa's body was later found. Despite his repeated claims of innocence, the facts began to tell a different story. Meanwhile, Anna Rosa's friends and family shared their growing fears. They described her as a kind woman caught in a toxic relationship. Her sudden change in attitude and distance from her children were signs of the emotional strain she endured. The Reiki therapy they practiced together, once a symbol of peace, now seemed like a fragile attempt to mend a broken relationship in the courtroom. The tension rose as new testimonies revealed Marcello's jealousy and possessiveness. Witnesses spoke of fights, threats, and emotional abuse. His attempts to control Anna Rosa extended beyond their home, tracking her movements and even hacking into her social media accounts. The prosecution built a strong case, painting a picture of a man consumed by jealousy and rage. Marcello's confession came after hours of questioning, where the weight of evidence cornered him. He admitted to the horrific crime, killing Anna Rosa in a fit of fury, then trying to cover it up by hiding her body. The community was shocked, but justice began to take its course. Marcello's trial was set, and the road ahead promised a hard reckoning for a man who betrayed love with violence. The days following Marcello's confession were filled with unbearable tension for everyone involved. The police intensified their investigations, retracing every step and examining every detail of the grim reality behind Anna Rosa's disappearance. Marcello, once confident and defiant, now sat quietly, haunted by his own admission. His story unfolded slowly, revealing the darkness that had festered beneath the surface of their once hopeful life together. Friends and family struggled to comprehend how a man they had known, even feared for his controlling nature, could commit such a horrifying crime. Anna Rosa's co-workers remembered her vibrant spirit, her laughter in the workshop, and the dreams she had shared, dreams now shattered forever. As forensic experts meticulously collected evidence from Marcello's home, the weight of the brutality became clearer. The tools found, the knives and cleavers, painted a chilling picture of the violent act he had committed in a fit of jealousy and rage. Meanwhile, the community of Santa Maria grappled with sorrow and shock. How had things gone so wrong? How had a woman so full of life, who had braved hardship and faced every challenge head-on, met such a tragic end? Marcello's trial loomed, and with it, the demand for justice. Witnesses prepared to share their stories. Fear, control, and a relationship that had turned deadly. As the trial date approached, the atmosphere around Marcello grew increasingly tense. Neighbors whispered behind closed doors, and the media frenzy intensified. Everyone wanted to understand what had driven a man to such darkness, especially someone who had once shared a life filled with love and hope alongside Anna Rosa. During the trial, heartbreaking testimonies emerged, revealing a hidden side to their relationship. Anna Rosa's daughter described how Marcelo's jealousy had slowly isolated her mother from her children and family, leaving her alone and vulnerable. Friends spoke of Marcelo's obsessive control, how he followed Anna Rosa's every move, even attending the Reiki classes she took, not as a partner, but as a watchful guard. The court heard about the last days of Anna Rosa's life, a mix of hope and fear. She had been trying to rebuild relationships, finding moments of happiness and peace despite Marcelo's tightening grip. But Marcelo's temper and need for control exploded during a weekend argument, culminating in a tragic, irreversible act. Experts testified about the violence of the attack, the crushing blows to her head, the skilled knife cuts, and the brutal dismemberment intended to hide the crime. The evidence painted a clear picture of premeditation and cruelty. Throughout the proceedings, Marcelo maintained a cold demeanor, occasionally breaking down but never fully admitting his guilt. His defense lawyers tried to cast doubt, suggesting he was mentally unstable, but the evidence was overwhelming. Anna Rosa's family sat stoically, their grief palpable yet steeled for justice. The courtroom became a battleground not only for truth, but for the memory of a woman whose life was stolen in the darkest way. The trial dragged on, revealing more painful details that tore at the hearts of everyone involved. Witnesses recounted moments when Marcelo's jealousy and anger had escalated, turning the once loving relationship into a nightmare for Anna Rosa. Friends spoke of bruises she tried to hide, of fearful glances, and late-night phone calls pleading for help. One of the most heartbreaking testimonies came from Fernando, a close co-worker of Anna Rosa, who described Marcelo as a man who had grown increasingly violent. Fernando revealed how Marcelo tracked Anna Rosa's every move, even following her to work and the Reiki classes she attended to find peace. It was a stark contrast to the woman who had once been full of life and hope. The prosecution presented evidence of the extensive bloodstains found in the couple's home, hidden and cleaned, but not erased. The forensic experts explained how the violent assault left permanent marks, a silent testimony to the horror that took place behind closed doors. Marcelo's defense tried to argue diminished responsibility, claiming he was not fully in control of his actions, but the jury saw through this, as the evidence clearly showed a calculated and brutal crime. Behind the courtroom doors, Anna Rosa's family held on to each other, finding strength in their pain, hoping that justice would finally be served. They knew nothing could bring her back, but they demanded the truth be heard and the guilty punished. The courtroom atmosphere grew heavier as the trial moved towards its final stages. Testimonies from Anna Rosa's daughters pierced the silence, revealing the emotional distance Marcelo had created between their mother and her own children. They spoke of a woman who, once loving and warm, became withdrawn and isolated under Marcelo's controlling grip. One daughter described how her mother seemed trapped in a cage of fear, always walking on eggshells around Marcelo. The other recounted the moments when Anna Rosa would avoid answering calls from family, too afraid of the consequences. These heartbreaking stories painted a vivid picture of a woman suffocated by jealousy and manipulation. Meanwhile, Marcelo maintained a cold and detached demeanor, often refusing to look directly at the family or the jury. His defense attorney tried desperately to shift blame and cast doubt, but the evidence was overwhelming. The jury listened intently as the prosecution laid out the timeline of the crime, showing how Marcello's violent outburst was premeditated rather than a moment of madness. Behind the scenes, Anna Rosa's friends and family prepared for the final verdict, knowing that no sentence could undo the horror she suffered, but hoping for justice to be served in her name. The final day of the trial arrived, filled with heavy anticipation and raw emotions. Marcello sat quietly as the judge prepared to deliver the verdict that would seal his fate. The courtroom was packed with Anna Rosa's family, friends, and neighbors, all waiting for justice to be spoken aloud. The judge's voice echoed through the room as he declared Marcello Favio Ferretto guilty of double aggravated murder, sentencing him to life imprisonment with the possibility of parole after 35 years, contingent on good behavior. The courtroom erupted in a mix of sobs, gasps, and angry shouts. Anna Rosa's relatives cried openly, their grief pouring out as they confronted the man who had destroyed their lives. Outside, the media swarmed, capturing every moment of the sentencing and the emotional aftermath. The prosecutor emphasized how the evidence had clearly proven Marcello's jealousy-fueled rage and cold-blooded planning. Marcello's attempts to evade full responsibility crumbled under the weight of truth. Though justice was served, the void left by Anna Rosa's death was impossible to fill. Her loved ones vowed to honor her memory by fighting against domestic violence and raising community awareness about the silent struggles many endure behind closed doors.